Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. There's obviously been a lot of discussion about Act 13, and a lot of the focus with Act 13 deals with the impact fee and setback requirements. One part of it that has gotten some attention yesterday that I wanted to talk to you about is the fines and penalties associated with those in the industry that violate the trust and also harm the environment. And if I could reference the Tribune Review story from yesterday, DEP levied the largest fine assessed during the shale gas boom. And your spokesman said, quote, "This is a flagrant violation of rules on record keeping. This sends a message that you don't have to foul the environment, but if you're not following the department's regulation, it's still serious." And I think a lot of times when we talk about penalties, it's for those that have harmed the environment. But I think what was different here is that you levied the largest fine in the shale gas boom, and it was for someone who didn't violate, just simply violated our trust. If you could maybe comment on that particular instance and the fact that Act 13 allowed your department to actually punish those that violate the trust, punish the environment even more strongly than it would have if Act 13 wouldn't have been put in place. In fact, 200% and 500% increases in the penalties. Can you just comment about those changes to Act 13?
If, you know, look, as a regulator, if we don't have the muscle behind us statutorily and from a regulatory perspective, then we would have become paper tigers. So it's very important to have this kind of muscle against when we're dealing with an industry that has deep pockets. So I consider $1.8 million a very steep fine. The deterrence, it's no different than in law enforcement. The deterrent effect, we're very happy that the environment was not harmed, but we also need to make sure there's a deterrent effect, not just in this industry, but in all regulated communities, that people understand when you willingly and knowingly violate our regulations and subject the potential harm to the environment or to our citizens that in this case may have existed, there is going to be substantial penalty involved. And so, yeah, we were very fortunate that there was not environmental harm. And I underscore the word fortunate. We were very fortunate there was not. But their actions alone warrant this kind of penalty, and it sends a message to anyone else that maybe perhaps is, you know, teetering on the fence of compliance. You know, we will not tolerate that.
And also, I would like to just comment on the changes of Act 13 that increase setback requirements. If Act 13 wouldn't have been passed, the setback requirements previous to Act 13 were a lot less than what they are currently, correct? Could you just maybe update those that are confused about the fact that some things have been said out in the public that we eased regulations, but in fact we significantly strengthened the regulations of your department in Act 13, correct?
That's correct. I mean, the Oil and Gas Act had not been updated in years. It certainly did not reflect this new industry, the unconventional industry. And the provisions that were contained in Act 13 gave us, as I said, the muscle to be able to deal with this industry on our terms. And I believe, you know, my experience, so it's anecdotal, but anecdotally the experience of the department has been that Act 13 has worked. It's served its purpose for us and allowed us not only to support the many good causes the impact fee provides, but it allowed us to develop the regulatory framework we needed to put more flesh on the bones. And I think overall, we would consider Act 13 from a department's perspective as a success.
And I think that's important for the committee to hear and the people of Pennsylvania to hear, because in election year the rhetoric gets ginned up, and the fact is Act 13 did a lot more than put an impact fee in place. It strengthened regulations, and the idea the previous gentleman said that maybe the commission was tipped in the scale in favorable of the industry. I haven't met many industries that support increased regulation, increased fines, increased bonding requirements, and increased fees associated with them doing business. I think this struck a reasonable balance between us protecting Pennsylvania and also telling industry that we're open for business. And I think your work should be commended. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.